let's talk about websites. So it's probably the most important part why we're all here today is websites. So there's lots of little things about this, and we'll go through as much as we can. So content is left to right, so same as us. So they read and write read and scan left to right. So that's pure and easy. Now, very simple navigation structure. Don't have pages within pages within pages and then they get lost. It's very simple. So when we're talking navigation, we're talking about at the top of your website where you've got your tabs. So you might have a home button, you might have a tour button, you might have a product button, or whatever the case may be. So very simple. And if you're saying on one of those is, say it's your accommodation features, if you're talking about your room types, then make sure that is what you're talking about in that tab. Now, a lot of this too, by the way, is pretty standard for your normal website as well. It's not a lot different to a Chinese website, but you should be doing this anyway, hopefully. Okay, so Flash, JavaScript, iframes, steer clear of them. It's not just beneficial for here in Australia with Google because Google can't read it anyway, but in China, it's the same thing. Make sure you're not using any of these Flash or JavaScript or anything like that that will make the website clunky or it will make it slow down, because you do not want that to happen. So you want to be able to have it nice and clean. Images. Now this is really interesting. The images. The consumer, from our research, they're very literal in what they see and what they want to experience when they get here in Australia. So for example, swimming here in obviously the Great Barrier Reef, the concept of having clouds in the sky actually does prove a purpose because they take the photos literally. So from our research, they actually said if there's clouds in the sky, then if they get here and it's raining or if it's cloudy, then that's okay. But if you don't have clouds in the sky in your photo, they'll expect 100% sunshine every day that they're here in Australia. I know, it's very literal with what they take. The same with if you've got a bedroom shot of your accommodation. So in this particular one, we've got a teddy bear on the bed and a bathrobe and a glass of milk and some cookies on the table side there. That's what they'll expect when they arrive. If you're in the group market is very different with the FIT market within photos. So the group market, they actually expect the Chinese consumer to be in the pictures because that's what they're on. They're on a group tour, so they expect to see their fellow citizens in those pictures. But the FIT market is a different story again. They actually expect to see a mix. So they want to see a Western person, but maybe every now and again throw in, or not throw in, it's a bad word, sorry, actually have a Chinese person in the image as well. So it's a bit of a mix in that respect, yeah. But they do take them very literal. So be very careful with how your photos appear and what you've actually got in your photos. But having people in the photos adds emotion and adds, oh, I want to be at that poolside, sitting on that lounge, drinking that Cosmopolitan. See, I'm thinking alcohol already and it's only 11:15. So that's what they will want to see and feel and experience. Because remember, back to Tracy's words before, they want the experience. They want to be able to come here and enjoy it the way we enjoy it. So that's what they will expect. Okay. Also be very careful with over-photoshopped photos. They're very, very cluey. They will pick up on things that you've added to the photo, or if you've made maybe a window shot in your room appear to have a different view than what you actually have. They're very good with that. So their knowledge base on the internet is very high. So we need to be very clear and make sure that you just be careful with your images. Same with your bathroom amenities, same thing, but if you're having all that in your bathroom, that's what they'll expect.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Just a question.
Yes.
You know how you've got there on that past slide it had captions on images? Is that something that's like standard practice on most Chinese websites?
Yes, sorry, I didn't mention that. That's standard on all websites. You really should be captioning all of your images. So if you've got an image that's of your front reception, for instance, then you call it front reception. So it's not just good for Chinese travellers, it's good for any traveller. And plus it's got great SEO qualities on the back end of it as well. So when you have your keywords embedded into images, that plays a big part just as much. So yes, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Okay, videos, love videos. The more you can embed videos into your website, the better. So UQ is their major video channel over there, so very similar to YouTube in the way it works, but huge Chinese following obviously on that, in that respect. But videos, I love it, absolutely love it. So, but again, keep them short and sweet, get to the point very quickly, and if you can, try and have some translated options in there as well, if you can, so they can understand what's going on and all the rest of it. Because remember, the language was a barrier. Well, potentially it's a barrier, so we want to overcome that. So the more you can translate, the better. So again, Tracy talked about this before. So assist them by saving face. So it's a cultural aspect for them. They don't like to be seen in a bad position. So an example there, we had an operator was telling us they went, took a group of Chinese travellers out onto a fishing trip, and they did not want to bait the hook. They didn't want to touch the bait at all. They didn't even want to throw the line in, but they wanted to be able to say, this is the fish I caught. So you've got to be careful in those respects. So this is not just, if you're using that photo on your website or on your social media, then it doesn't matter if they didn't catch the fish. To them, they were out there, they did it, they were there on the boat, but that's the fish that they caught. So it's about saving face for them, so putting them into position so that when they go home, they can go, well, look at the fish I just caught, even though they didn't catch it. Doesn't matter, okay? Obviously, translation into Chinese, simplified or traditional, is preferable. The language barrier is an issue, obviously, so where you can translate, the better. Please, 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 don't rely on Google Translate. Some of you may have come across this issue or not, but it is not a very good translation point. I think someone was telling me, I think it was in Italian or French or something like that, that the Great Barrier Reef is a big pile of rocks. So be very careful with how you translate. So if you can, obviously access a Chinese national would be great. The unis have international students, go and hit them up. I'm sure they're looking for a couple extra bucks to help them get through their studies. So just, think about that, or contact, maybe, you might have a person that you know of in another business that they've got a Chinese national working for them. So access whatever you can. Now, if you are going down the path of translating into Chinese, into simplified or traditional, then obviously provide Chinese responses. So if you're having a booking system, or if you've got an email confirmation, or if you've got anything like that, then respond in Chinese as well. Because it's all well and good to have a translated website, and then you go back to them in English. So you really should be responding as much as you possibly can in Chinese as well. Okay, use destination and how-to information. Part of the research that Tracy came out with was this is what they're looking for. So, but when we're saying how-to information, we're drilling right down. How do I catch a bus if I'm staying at your hotel? Or how do I get to the local shop if I need to? Or how do I find a bank? Or where's the closest ATM? And they want detailed destination information. This is what they're expecting from you. So if you can add that in, put it in. So anything that you think that they're going to need while they're here, put it onto your website. The more the better, actually. Different book and pay options. So part of the research, again, we found that people wanted the ability to be able to book online was the first instance. So booking online, obviously, that's where we're heading and that's where we are, and that's where we'll only end up probably going. So, but when we're saying paying options, so they're talking about, can I just book online, or can I book and pay, or can I in full, or can I book and pay a deposit? So it's something that you would need to consider with your particular website and how you're going to go about it. But it's just something that they did say it wasn't a hard and fast rule that they just wanted book and pay option. They wanted all options, but obviously that's not always easy for us on our side. So just consider that though when you're building it. It might be, maybe the easiest would be a book and pay a deposit, perhaps. At least then you've still got some money and you've got that booking in place. So it's up to you. So also think about your content in broader terms. Now, obviously Gold Coast has a very huge search term already. It's already in place. Gold Coast is very well known. So in that respect for your sites though, go Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, because you'll still find there are some consumers out there who may not know Gold Coast. Maybe they've travelled to Europe before, or maybe they've travelled to other Asian destinations, but they haven't come to Australia yet. So still broaden your search abilities so that they can find you. So add in each step of the pathway to actually get you here, or get them here. Sorry, we're already here. And then, this was a big factor that came out of the research, give them an international phone number that they can call as an option. So if they have a little bit of a concern still booking online, which some people still do, then give them the option to give you a call. Now obviously we've got a time difference, so we just need to make sure that you're very clear on your website when that phone number is available to be called. So it's really spelling it out for them every step of the way, if you can. And a lot of these points are the same for your general domestic website as well. They're not that much different, to tell you the truth. So the biggest factor that we've come across on websites in Australia, not even international market-wise, is where's your contact number? Is it hidden somewhere on a page, or is it nice and clear on the top front of your website? So just little things to consider. Okay, so hosting. So you've built your website. It's all great. It looks fantastic. You've got the colours and you've got the scheme all happening, and it's all great. What about hosting? So do you or don't you host in China? So if you don't host in China, these are some of the things that you could come across that could happen to your website. So we've got, it could be blocked altogether, or it could be partly blocked. So the things that stop you from being, or stop you from getting blocked, generally it's your content. So it could be something that they don't particularly like, or they don't want to let through. So it could be, for instance, we came across one the other day, was a site had a day spa and it had massages available and all that sort of thing. The site got blocked because of that, because the Chinese firewall, so to speak, found that inappropriate, the word massage and day spa and so forth. So you've got to be really careful with the content that you're actually putting up in the first place. So slow loading times if you don't host in China, so it can become really clunky and slow, and it might not load images quick enough, or the videos might not load quick enough. So that will potentially give you issues, obviously, if you're not hosting. And then it won't give you the ability to index your site with local search engines. So with Baidu obviously being the big one, the big player, they won't index your site. So just like you do that with Google here in Australia, when you index your site when you first build it, that potentially could happen when you do it for China. And then of course if you want to work with Baidu, it could be a much longer process because you haven't gone through that indexing side of things. Okay. Now, the problem with hosting in China. So that's some bad news. So here's some even more bad news for you, unfortunately, I have to tell you. That Great Firewall of China is your issue, but the only way you can host your website in China is that you have to have a business presence in China. So if you're a business here in Australia, but you don't have a business that's actually legally recognised within China, you cannot host. So that's bad news, unfortunately. So it does put the stop on a few things. But I'll give you some good news in a moment, so it's okay. Because what actually happens is you have to have what's called an ICP licence, and the only people who can get an ICP licence is people who are registered businesses in China. So that does cause issues. But what you could do, there's a couple of solutions to that, is you could possibly use a digital agency who is based in China. So obviously though, the downside of that is the cost, because you're going to have to pay this digital agency in China to be able to do all this for you. But just have a look at, when you are looking at deciding to go down this path, that can they do these things for you? Or sorry, look at Can they support everything that you need? Have they got a track record? It's exactly the same way if you were looking to find a digital agency here in Australia to work for you. Same aspect, but your major difference is they're based in China and they have a Chinese team, so that they can do the translations if you need them to, or they can actually speak with people, you know, and respond to the Weibo posts that go out there. So, because obviously we can't read them, so can they respond for you? So that's what you're looking for. And same things, do they have accreditation? Do they have any other association memberships? And are they giving you all the information about what they do up front? Are they transparent about what they do? And always read the fine print. And that goes to say for anything in the digital space when you're dealing with anything, even in Australia. So always read the fine print, because a lot of people get caught out, unfortunately. Okay, so things that they could do for you. I'm not sure if they do all this for you, but they can obviously do your website optimization. Analytics and your reporting side of it is very important. So you need to know that the money that you're putting into this digital agency is working. Are you getting the traffic? Are you getting the conversions in bookings? Are they actually coming here to Australia to experience your product? So you need to be able to see all that. So they should be providing you with reports, or you should have access to this. Social media marketing and management. So it's not just about setting up the accounts on Weibo, and we'll talk about these other accounts in a moment. It's not about just setting them up, but can they actually manage it for you? Can they give you campaign ideas? Can they give you the translations back to these people who are actually responding to your posts in the first place? So can they manage the whole scenario? Reputation management, just like here in Australia, we need to make sure that we're on top of that. So looping is the, it's one like TripAdvisor that's over there. TripAdvisor actually has their own Chinese-based reputation site, so it's called Dao. I think I pronounced that right. I hope I did. Sorry. But there's lots of others as well. So can they do that side of it for you as well? And obviously, the more you get them to do, the more cost you're going to have involved. Hosting, that's why you're doing it in the first place, going through a digital agency, because they can host it for you. Search optimization for Baidu, for obvious reasons. The customer service, and then your email marketing if you want to go down that path. So it's a whole package. So do you want them to do all this for you? Okay. So just a couple of shots for you so you can see some examples. Hamilton Island, clouds in the sky, see? Hamilton Island, now this is a fully translated Chinese website, but is not hosted in China. It's actually only hosted here in Australia. They have still found, I mean, the product does speak for itself. They have still found, though, that the Chinese traveller is still coming through and still booking off their site without being hosted in China. So you still can do it, but you just have to be very mindful of the content that you've got on your site, that it's not going to be potentially blocked, and that it's still easy to understand and follow and navigate and so forth. So it still can be done. But just so you can see, that was one particular site that I wanted you to have a look at. The other one, this is Tourism with Sundays, fully translated website hosted in China. So as you can see, the layout, not that much different. The navigation is still simple. The imagery is very clear and very nice, still clouds in the sky in the background there. But as I said, this one is hosted in China, and they've had very good results. I was speaking to the gentleman up there, and he said, yes, we're getting the traffic, yes, we're getting the interest through, and it's not blocked because it's obviously hosted in China, and they use a digital agency in China as well. So just so you can see, it doesn't look any different, hosted or not hosted, which is obvious, but it still can work both ways. You can do it. You just got to be careful with, if you're not hosting in China, you just have to be very careful with that content side of things, and that's all. That's the main issue.
Where it shines, Queensland shines on me. Where Australia shines.